Do they view Kenny Pickett as a guy who could potentially be on the level of these other quarterbacks that we just named, where you're going to say Kenny Pickett,
Right.
maybe he's not as good as a Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow, but he'll be in the mix of those guys?
I think they're hopeful he can be I think they're hopeful he can be on that level with that second tier of guys that we talked about, right? Trevor Lawrence. I don't think Lawrence is a Mahomes, Allen, Burrow level guy. I think Lawrence would be very good, but he's not great. I think the same thing of Justin Herbert. You could argue about the coaching staff and the way they've handled things in some, specific game management instances, but I think Herbert can be very good, if not great. I think if he fulfills all of his potential, Kenny Pickett can be very good, and I think that's what the Steelers believe he can be. But he is not a guy who's going to single-handedly carry a franchise to a Super Bowl. He's got to have the weapons around him, which they've built out fairly nicely around him on the offensive side of the ball, and they've got to have a good defense. Which brings me back around to the point I made at the beginning of this, which is if they're an 8 or 9 win team, you're telling me they're no better than last year, despite the fact that many people like yourself expect Kenny Pickett to make some kind of progression this year, right? Some kind of growth. He's not going to throw twice as many picks as touchdowns. If that's the case, then you've also got to tell me that you believe there's going to be some sort of major step backwards on the defensive side of the ball, because TJ Watt missed almost half the year last year. Without TJ Watt, the defense had trouble. They got steamrolled in the fourth quarter on the ground by the New England Patriots last year, which was just embarrassing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're telling me you would either expect Cam Hayward to age out and go falling off a cliff this year, or Minkah Fitzpatrick to not be one of the best safeties in the league on the back end, or TJ Watt to start to have happen to him what happened to his older brother around this age, which is he starts to fall apart. I don't think I can count on any of those things, which is why the Steelers' defense should again be good. And if Kenny Pickett progresses at all, well, then now they're a 10-win team. They're a 9 or 10-win team, which is why I take the over every single day on the Steelers at over 8.5. I don't think they're going to challenge. I want to be real clear. I don't think they're going to challenge Joe Burrow and the Bengals for the division, but I think they're a wild card team this year, and I think they and the Ravens battle it out for second in the AFC North, and they both probably end up going to the playoffs. But it's always interesting to me to kind of get that look from the outside looking in on what do people really think of Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. And if you just judge by the books, then it seems everybody expects the Steelers to remain status quo, which is not what we've heard people, like you just said a couple minutes ago, say about Kenny Pickett. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think I'd probably lean under on this one. Again, I expect Kenny Pickett to grow and progress in year 2, but in a week 1 spot against the Niners and their defense is not the spot for where I look for the launching point. I'm sorry. They might get out alive. They might win a 21-18 squeaker or lose a 21-18 squeaker. That kind of game, 2017, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't think it gets over the 41.5. I think it is a field goal game. I will stay away from this thing if it doesn't move off of 3, but I would lean under on Niners Steelers.
This is my surprise of the show.
Okay.
Jordan Love throws for over 4,000 yards. Jordan Love, I am a believer in, and I think in ball. I think Jordan Love is going to come in, and Green Bay is going to get lucky for the 3rd time in a row to go from one great quarterback to another quarterback. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre level. I would never say that. But I think Jordan Love is a player. Now, I think Green Bay has a bunch of holes around that. But so I don't think I think they're going to be, 6-10, 6-11 now, 7-10 team. I think I agree with you on the numbers, but I think Jordan Love will be the bright spot that people say, okay, Green Bay can have one down year and be back to being a competitive playoff team.
Interesting.
But again, I'm not going to bet this game. But the side bet that I'm going to give you, though, for this is Jordan Love, 4,000 yards.
Of all the new quarterback wide receiver duos that were created this offseason in the NFL, CBS Sports recently ranked them and ranked Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson as the number 1 new quarterback wide receiver duo created this offseason. GTFO with that, or oh yeah?
GTFO.
Who's the best then?
Did we not? Did we not watch Aaron Rodgers last year?
I'm with you on Aaron Rodgers.
Like Garrett is he's a dude. He's he's a guy who can ball. But
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers is a guy who is in the back end of his career, and you saw it. And if the offensive line doesn't totally hold up for him, he's going to struggle a little bit. And it's year one. It takes time for chemistry. So you're going to tell me year one he's going to be better? I'm not even going to pick the number one option. He's better than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, who's going to give you a guaranteed 14. You think year one he's going to be better than Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? Which might be my number one.
But if we just limit it to duos that came together this offseason, like Dak Prescott and Brandon Cooks, Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley, Justin Fields, DJ Moore, Lamar and OBJ, Derek Carr, Michael Thomas, who else? Bryce Young and Adam Thielen. We'll throw them out there. When you look at that list, when you look at that list, I think they've got a chance to be the best new duo. The only one that I might think about ahead of that one, now that we've talked about them a little bit, and I can't believe I'm leaning this way because I'm not in on the Bears this season, but Justin Fields and DJ Moore has a chance, I think, to be the best new duo created this offseason. So I'm rolling with Luton Town. Luton Town to win in regulation against Coventry. This is my big degenerate bet for the weekend. I'm all over it. Give me Luton Town to win tomorrow and earn themselves promotion to the Premiership. Have you got anything quite degenerate as that, Sean?
No, of course I don't. So I need to ask you
what my problem is.
I need to ask you: are you just looking and seeing wild odds and saying, I got to put a bet on that just in case it happens? Or are you actually doing some research and saying, hey, this can possibly happen? What's your thought? I want to know what your thought process is when you find this bet, and why do you end up making it?
So here's what I did with this one in particular. Like I said, I just start scrolling in the BetMGM app, right? And I get down, I get past all the mainstream stuff, right? All the stuff I know I'm going to I have an idea on where I want to bet, right? All the stuff I don't necessarily need to deep research on. And I get to the stuff I have to research on. On English soccer, because I watch a little bit here and there, but I don't watch enough to really know English soccer. And so I see, that's right, there's this big promotion match tomorrow, Wembley Stadium. Let's do a little bit of reading about this one. And that's where I got to Luton Town at plus 145 to win in regulation. So it's not huge odds, not crazy, over Coventry in the English Championship playoff final. Again, about a $220 million match. I like to root underdogs. I think we all like underdogs a little bit. But I like the fact that it's this little bedroom community like an hour north of London. They've got this little 10,000-seat stadium, and they're going to be playing the big dogs next year if they win. Manchester City is going to have to march into this little tiny stadium with a locker room about as big as this room in my basement that I'm in right now. And they're going to have to literally this stadium. You got to walk through people's backyards to get from the locker room to the pitch, as they call it. So give it to me. I'm here for the underdog. I'm here for Luton Town to beat Coventry tomorrow.